maybe each one has like a warlord at the top of it,
Yeah.
and defeating them gets you something special.
Oh god, you know what I think we just made? Pokemon.
It's a gym battle. No.
It's just
It's
all
like,
gym
yes.
battle. Finally on the show, we have a Mechanically Speaking. And finally, yeah. We kind of spoke about mechanics on the last one, but this is actually a Mechanically Speaking. Because, are you ready to get in the ring?
I'm ready to rumble.
Excellent. Okay, so and Thor and the Hulk end up fighting each other, and that's fun for everybody.
That's a great transition.
That's a Marvel Cinematic Universe thing that you probably... He's a friend from work.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we were talking a little bit before we started recording about the nature of going through a series of, like, arena fights.
Yeah.
And what the mechanics behind that are.
Or the reasons behind it.
Or the reasons behind it, yeah. It's something that I... like, we can talk about it in terms of actually laying this out for like a TTRPG.
Sure.
But before we do that, I did want to make mention that I see this a lot as like a plot line in almost every RPG video game that I have ever played in my entire life. I've seen this in Zelda. This was Fable, KOTOR, Fallout, Skyrim. Actually,
well,
like every Elder Scrolls game has had a point where you just
Castlevania Curse of Darkness had something similar. The other thing we were talking about, not just arenas, but was like towers. Like battle towers.
Yeah!
Even Pokemon has a battle arena and battle tower type stuff, too.
I was playing Yakuza Like a Dragon, and there is like a 100 level deep like fighting arena system or something like that. It goes 30 or 40 deep.
Castlevania Curse of Darkness actually has a tower. I forget it. It's named like the Tower of Infinite or something like
Tower
that.
of Terror
but
or something.
It goes up 50 floors.
Yep.
You fight up 50 floors, and then you can glide over to the next side. There's another tower, and you fight down 50 floors.
Oh god. Nice.
And that one's harder because it's got a bunch of mechanics that you need to interact with in the right way, or else you can't beat it.
I think, wouldn't it be amazing if they had a whole thing where like you have to fight up 50 floors of a tower, and then they like give you like a special chest, and it's like on a little platform that's off of the tower, and so you have to make this one pivotal jump to get to that platform for the one, and if you miss, you fall all the way down to the bottom, and you have to fight your way back up the 50 floors again.
And they have a really bad camera angle on it, so you miss every time.
Absolutely.
It's just you can't interact. There's no platform.
I could see that in the next Souls game.
Great. No jump mechanic. Just good luck.
Just good luck. Roll. Try rolling. Yeah.
I want to know why games are obsessed with this battle arena, battle tower type mechanic. Like, is it something that inherently, like, it's not necessarily bad,
no,
but it's strange.
It's out of character
to think about.
Yeah, it's definitely out of character in relation to the rest of the game.
Right.
Like they do it. I think honestly the reason why they do it is because for people who want to focus on combat, sometimes when you're getting into the storyline, it's not combat heavy enough, and they want to provide something that is all combat all the time. Like it comes out of the tactical and combat heavy RPGs.
Sure. But here's the question about that. If you wanted to do something that breaks away from the rest of the gameplay to be a very specific combat arena / combat tower, because those are also very prevalent, like, what's the in-game reason for it? Like, battle arenas are a little bit more able to be explained. Yes, we're having a competition. There's a battle arena, and like in Fable's case, it's like you're fighting the arena against the same characters, it's part of the plot.
Yes.
And when it's part of the plot, it can be explained away because plot point or subplot point, there's narration. But like these random battle towers out in the middle of nowhere that just exist. And it's like, yes, you can fight up 50 floors for some treasure.
Yeah.
It's like, why does this exist in this game?
Right. Because the thing about it is that it kind of gets meta. Because even in like Yakuza, there was this whole thing where it's like, yeah, you can go into this battle tower so that you can get powerful enough to handle the tasks that you're going to be doing later. And it's like, oh, you're just kind of showing that it's a game, okay?
So I'm thinking in like tabletop, you could kind of do something interesting if you wanted to. Or let's say we're running a D&D game as an example, and we decide, yeah, we're just going to have like a bunch of battle towers scattered throughout the world.
Yeah.
Maybe each one has like a warlord at the top of it.
Yeah.
And defeating them gets you something special.
Oh god, you know what I think we just made? Pokemon.
It's a gym battle. No.
It's
like, yes. Now you have 10 floor, like 50 floors of a tower, and it becomes just a slog. Like, the issue there is then you have to plan out what's on each floor.
I think it would be cool if you themed it around, like, one kind of, like, enemy.
Yeah, that's what Pokemon do.
Yeah.
These are all fairy enemies.
Yeah, no, it's like, and then, like, if you had, like, undead, and you had a tower of the undead, and then
it just gets more powerful.
And then
it's a lich.
The boss at the end is a lich, yeah. It's just Vecna. You just have to fight Vecna at the end. That's gonna suck.
Great. But I mean, I feel like you could do something like this in D&D and get away with it. Like mage towers exist.
Yeah.
But they're not usually, I don't think they're usually battle towers.
Yeah.
But like, I just think it'd be really interesting to be like, all right, there are these 10 towers scattered across the world. And if you find them, it's kind of like Breath of the Wild at that point. You can activate the tower and you can like fight the warlord or whatever at the top. You have to defeat all the enemies or trick them and whatever, defeat the tower, get special item, maybe you collect all the special items, and then you get like a chest.
Yeah.
You become a god. Who knows? But like you could tie it into a D&D type campaign.
Oh sure.
It would be interesting though. But again, you have to then plan out all the towers and be like, all right, this one's got goblinoids. And then it's like, by the time you hit the top of it, it's got like 3 ogre warlords, something like that you've got to defeat. And it's like, can you rest in the tower? What happens? Can you sleep in it? Do you get like, are there any rest floors?
Sir, yeah. So here's something that I'm realizing is, you might remember once upon a time I ran a game.
Once upon a day.
And only the once. I ran that game.
Never again.
Never again. The first quest line that I was taking them on was where there were these 2 identical towers that they could climb up. They could go either on the left side or the right side. And I did lay them out, and I had mapped it out, that there were 10 floors on each one, and then basements, levels that were below it. So there's a reason why I did that, and then there's like a hidden reason why I did that.
Of course.
So the reason why I did that was because I wanted to create a Romeo and Juliet sort of situation with a bunch of trolls, and that these trolls were of 2 different houses that hated each other and would constantly snipe at each other across the towers. And and a prince and a princess essentially were at the top being held by the opposite family captive, and you had to figure out how to free them and, reunite them and show that love conquers all. And the trolls were literally like internet trolls.
Oh no.
But they looked like trolls, but they acted like internet trolls. And so the idea of, stopping the internet trolls and letting true love prevail. And then I had different floors that were supposed to be armories or barracks or stuff like that, and had different traps inside them. And I did that because I thought it was a really easy layout that people could get up and down, so that they could move freely from one to the other. Now, the hidden reason why I did that was because, frankly, I didn't really know how I wanted to structure the overall campaign and where I wanted to go with the characters. So I figured that if I started with something pretty basic like this, where they had, these two essentially large dungeons to go up and down through with different challenges, it would give me a lot of time to figure out how they function mechanically, what they do in combat, who their characters are, and it would give me plenty of time to figure out what the next thing that would be more focused would be. So, yeah. That was my hidden agenda behind the whole thing.
Of course.
Was to build their characters out by using those towers. That wasn't necessarily... Well, it was a little bit progressive as I went up, where I was like, well, they're probably going to have some just, like, not exactly the brightest trolls, like down toward the bottom. As we get higher, though, there are traps. There are obviously, like, barricades where the trolls had taken over these towers and had made, like, fortifications. When you get up toward the armory, now they've got armor on, they've got weaponry, and as they go up and up and up. And they're not quite as focused on the phones. That I should have mentioned that. The story beat here of being the fantasy world where things from other worlds keep coming in, the whole idea was that there were literally these two families that lived in these towers and hated each other. But then a bunch of cell phones came down from the sky, and they got so focused on looking at their phones and trying to snipe at each other online that the trolls could easily move in, take over the place. But then they found the phones. And so when you get in there, all they've done is they've raised their entire culture up around what they've done on social media.
Great.
And the trolls took over, but yeah.
You ever think you get a little too meta with your ideas?
Rift Hunter was literally meta the game, so...
Yeah. that turned out really well, right?
Yeah, it meta got destroyed. But anyway... So, funnily enough, my very first quest line ended up being around towers that you had to battle up through.
See? Prevalence. Now.
Yeah.
What are we going to do with this information?
What are we going to do with that information? Well, I think it informs one of the reasons why developers might do it, because it actually provides a baseline for your characters. How they function in combat, what they do, especially if it's combat focused.
Sure, I mean, fighting a battle tower in a video game, though, you're already probably familiar with your character and how they function, and the developers already know it because it's been coded in.
That's true.
They don't need to get familiar with your characters.
Yeah, it's just...
Then it's just a proving ground.
Okay, so we've got a proving ground kind of thing, becoming the champion of the arena. Do you think it has something to do with the fact that we have a little bit of a societal interest in, like, the Colosseum kind of style gladiator fighting that got big, like, back in the day?
I don't know. I don't think that fits.
Russell Crowe just made us all want to battle in arenas.
Maybe.
I'm just thinking that if you're playing, like, a lot of fantasy games, there might be an aspect where you're like, remember, like, the Roman Colosseums and the battles that they did? Wouldn't it be cool if there was a thing?
Those were fighting animals.
Yeah.
A lot.
They fought each other, but they didn't, like, fight to the death very often.
No, and when they didn't fight each other, they were fighting, like, bears and lions and tigers and
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, there was something I was listening to not that long ago. It's like, yeah, not that long ago, like, throwing, like, animals in a ring to kill each other was a form of entertainment.
Very recently.
Yeah, within the last couple hundred years. And it was like,
even now.
Well, now it's frowned upon heavily, but
it is.
Back then it was, like, accepted.
Yes.
As just a form of entertainment. And they were talking about how, like, how people say that, like, Shakespeare's plays are rather bloody? I guess. I don't know. I'm not really a Shakespeare fan or know much about it. But apparently his plays are rather, like, bloody and violent and stuff. And it's like, yeah, because he had to compete with, like, bear arenas.
Yeah.
Where they actually just would be like, yeah, we're just going to put a bear in here and, like, have it, fight to the death versus whatever, or they like I guess one of them was like throw wild dogs in there or dogs in there and have it with like a lion or things like that.
Yeah.
Or monkeys, and just have animals tear each other apart for
Oh, yeah.
entertainment.
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
like, okay, wow, the past was the worst.
People had too much time on their hands, I guess. I thought that they were busy trying to like survive without like indoor plumbing and stuff, but then apparently
The way to get around that is by having animals murder each other for your entertainment.
all of us see this is why the Romans should have never invented the aqueducts. They spent too much they got too civilized, and then all of a sudden they were like, well, now we're bored, now we have to find new entertainment. We don't
How are they bored? They line the aqueducts with lead.
Oh, that just hardens your bloodstream, right? Isn't that how that works?
It's how they sweeten their wine too.
Ah, yes. Delicious. Where the wine tastes like lead. So fortified. That's why it's red. Anyway,
Red.
yes,
Yeah.
that's why it's red. But in terms of like actually doing it in a role-playing game, there is the opportunity to say that if you're doing arena fights, it actually does have something to do with the storyline, which they usually try to integrate into the video games when I've seen it before. I know that like in KOTOR, if you actually beat the guy that's at the head, there's actually rewards associated with it. You gain access in a way that you didn't have options before. And there were whole quest lines in like Fallout New Vegas when you went to the fighting pit, the blood pit or whatever, and Skyrim too. And in Fable, like you had mentioned, it actually is a crucial part of the game because it's the way that you meet Jack. You have to access Jack through that and make a critical choice about Whisper. But if you're just providing the the Tower of Terror, where you just go down through it, is it mostly just so that you can get experience?
Probably experience or loot. I don't really know.
Experience or loot. It's the loot tower.
Yeah, the loot tower. It's like the loot cave, but full of monsters.
Full of monsters. Is this something that we should actually try to put into an RPG? Do you think we could mindscape that?
I don't really think it's worth it unless you have a specific vision in mind for that specific thing being a focal point. I don't think it's worth just throwing them in randomly.
You'd have to have something that really codified it for like the reason why you're doing it. Like towers can exist in a world, especially a fantasy setting. I understand that, or even in like a wartime setting, because you'd have spires, you'd have like forts and stuff like that, where you'd have spiraling towers. But I'd want an actual motivation to go up there and not just here's more enemies to kill.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of a fort, I wouldn't fight my way to the top of an enemy tower.
No.
I would surround the base with explosives and detonate the entire tower and then clean up the mess afterwards.
Or you do
like, why fight all the enemies there? Just blow the tower up.
Unless they're sniping at you with like shotguns or something at the top, or bows or something at the top.
I have a spell called Mold Earth.
Oh yeah, that will do it.
And this stone tower is technically stone, and I can take stone to like turn stone to mud.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. Or, even if you wanted to, you just keep moving the earth out from underneath the tower and just keep sinking the tower down.
Perfect. Yeah, there's so many ways
through the top.
In a fantasy setting like D&D, there are so many ways to overcome a tower. I think it would actually be funny if you put a tower in just for the purpose of like seeing how they deal with it.
Oh my god. Yeah, just have no staircase or way to get into the tower at the base. You have to figure out how to
there's a way to get in. The door is locked.
The door is locked, so you can use knock to open it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Or,
so you're like, at the top of this tower,
yeah,
you have a sign, like at the top of this tower is a treasure unimaginable. If you can fight your way to the top,
yeah,
you earn the prize. And it's like, the first trial is getting in the door, but like, there's no actual door, maybe?
Here's a way that I don't think most people would have thought about. But I do like the idea if you just used like shape water, like near the top of the tower, and just drench everybody that's inside of it. Like if you could just, like you could eventually maybe flood the. If you just kept using shape water, you might actually be able to flood the tower.
That would be hilarious.
And then everybody drowns.
And then it just pours water out the top, and you're like, ah, there we go.
Yeah, that would work out great. If you want higher level spells, just do Meteor Storm. Then your area of effect is the whole tower. Everybody inside of it is the area of effect.
Well, I mean, it would hit the floor above it. So, anyways, I think if you're going to use a tower in a game, I think use it as some obstacle to try and see how they work around it. Not just fill it with enemies. You can still fill it with enemies, but don't, like, go ham. I think it'd be funnier and more interesting to see, like, if they sink it into the ground, or if they make it topple over, destroy it. Something.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of fun things you can do. And I think that that's the real benefit here of seeing how you can do it in a tabletop game versus in a video game. Because I think in the video games, you usually end up with a scenario where it's just, I need to fight through the enemies to get to the top of the tower, the bottom of the tower, go down through the 100 floors, and fight your way through. In a tabletop game, though, sky's the limit, baby. How do you want to address? Yes, literally. And maybe you fly. Maybe you reverse gravity. Wouldn't that be amazing? On the tower. And you have one of those like light walls somewhere in the tower when you do it. And then everybody, as they topple through and reverse gravity, they pass through the wall. they pass through the wall. There you go. Thoughts. Enjoy. Find a way to just make the whole thing oil and then set it on fire.
Not that hard. Use spell grease at the top.
Yep.
Anyways.
There's a lot of ways that you can deal with that without having to deal with, just the battle arena style. If you're going to do the arena part, though, I would suggest that there's actually a storyline around while you're fighting in the arena. It'd be good for your characters.
It's for money.
It's for money, fame, fortune, or I would like to see the idea of it being for access, like you know that there's a fighter that's being held against their will and they're the champion of the arena, and you really need information that they have, so you're going to have to fight to the point where you can talk to him, and
turns out he's got no tongue.
He's got no tongue, and it turns out that the only way you can get the magical scroll is you have to beat him in the arena.
There you go.
And then they'll hand you his possessions. And one of his possessions is the scroll with the information you need on it. So there you go. But hey, if anyone out there has an idea for how you might want to do arena fighting or how you'd set it up, please let us know. And if you happen to be
or tower. How you deal with the tower.
How do you deal with the tower? That's a really good question, actually. Folks out there, you have the tower. How do you actually deal with the tower? A lot of options.
Murder.
And if you are over on Anchor, feel free to leave us a voice clip. You can do that too. As well as contacting us over on our Discord channel.